Hi, I'm Bruce Milne, and I've been invited to be part of this year's Leaps and Bounds Music Festival, giving you a little tour of some of the music venues and some of the history of some of the music venues around the city of Yarra. I'm really fortunate because this has been my stomping ground my whole adult life. It's where I've lived and it's where I've worked, but I'm certainly not an expert on this. I'm just like so many of you. I've been to a lot of gigs. I'm very fortunate when the Leaps and Bounds Musical Festival started. Mary Mialakos asked me to do some bus tours, some music history bus tours of the city of Yarra, and doing those with musicians, I learnt a lot more, and talking to venue owners and other things. So I'd like to share some of that information with you. We're starting off here at the Tote Hotel. This is, for me, a very important place. This is where, when I had a Go-Go Records, most of our acts would launch their records here. This is where we launched the Scientists' Swampland single. I think it's where we launched God's My Pal. It's where I would have first seen the Triffids when they came to Melbourne. The Hoodoo Gurus on their first trip to Melbourne. I think their first gig was playing here, supporting the Triffids. So many memories. As I discovered recently, the front cover photo of Paul Kelly's Gossip album is a shot of him on stage here at the Tote Hotel. So it's weird being back here and back during the daytime. It's definitely part of my community, but it could have been any of the venues that we started on. There's the Bendigo just down the road, or the Gem just up the road. Around on Smith Street, of course, there's Yah-Yahs, and at some stage I'll go into some of the history of some of the other the venues that aren't here anymore. But I'm trying to think what else I can tell you about the Tote Hotel. There's supposed to be a ghost halfway up the stairs. I've been here by myself early in the morning and very late at night, and I've never seen it, but I'm not going to let that get in the way of a good story. There is a tunnel. Well, there was a tunnel underneath the Tote, going diagonally opposite to the building on the corner on the other side. Apparently, the Tote was part of John Wren's patch, and of course his Tote, his booking agency, was a legal booking shop, was just down the road, down Johnson Street on the other side, and apparently you got to it by going down the laneway through a wood yard and a little back door there to place your bets. But there was also betting going on at the Tote, and I met a woman whose uncles ran the Tote during the 1920s and 30s, and her job was to be what she called a cockatoo. She played hopscotch out the front of the Tote, but kept her eye open looking down Johnson Street. And if she saw the cops coming, she ran in and warned everyone, and they could go down the tunnel and escape through the backyard of the shop on the opposite corner. That's not got nothing to do with music, but it's a good story too. Actually, to find the tunnel, the manager and I decided to have a look in the cellar underneath the Tote, and it wasn't used because we've got a cool room out the back. So we had to move the jukebox, pull up the carpet, and there was one of those big, thick old wooden doors, cellar doors, and we lifted it up, shone a light down, and we both looked up and went, what the? Because the sink had a drain pipe going out to the sewage on the street that had been dripping, presumably for years, just dripping beer slops down into the cellar. And the entire floor of the cellar was covered about this deep in thick maroon worms. And we spent an entire day going up and down a ladder filling buckets with these worms, and we put them all out in the beer garden here, but we sort of ran out of space there, so we started walking around the neighbourhood just pouring buckets of worms into any front yards we could see. Unfortunately, when we did all of that, and because we were trying to find out where if it was true that there were tunnels, the walls down there had been concreted over, so we weren't even able to see where the tunnel was. Anyway, I might walk you through to the front of the pub and see if I can think of another story to tell you. I should have mentioned that I was licensee of the Tote for 10 years too. along with a friend Richie and my brother James, up until the liquor licensing restrictions forced us to close. But well, luckily things changed after that, and until this coronavirus lockdown, the Melbourne music scene and this area was looking particularly vibrant, and I hope that we can get back to some sort of vibrancy like that again. Trying to think of some of the other things that happened here at the Tote. I think of all the different bookers too, because there was, Richard Stanley, who was in the Onyas, who I put out records by, Janelle Johnston, Amanda Palmer, who was the booker when we closed, Luke Roberts, who managed a few bands as well, and Wally Meany. It was Wally Meany when he was booking here. He rang me one day and said, "Oh, you've got to come see this young band from Geelong." And Dave Thomas from Board also rang during the same week and said, "You should go and see this band. They're really good." And that's when I first saw Magic Dirt and pretty much signed them on the spot. It's also another band I worked with, Spiderbait, virtually lived here. I mean, they lived around the corner, just further up Johnson Street, but they used to rehearse upstairs in the upstairs room. And I think even some of the recording for their first album might have been done up there. So yeah, it's still, when I walk around here, I just keep thinking of all these bits of music history. I think of when Michael Lynch, who now manages comedians, and I think it was Johnny Topper, when they first opened the Tote as the Tote, because it was the Ivanhoe Hotel before that. That would have been in, I think, late 81. And at first they called it Le Tote, at the Paris end of Johnson Street, which I thought was pretty cute. And they put on a lot of great bands, and another band I worked with a lot, Harum Scarum, played here a lot. So yes, this place, memories come rushing back. It's always been in quite a grungy little corner of Collingwood, which is good because whilst the area has gentrified, it's the Tote has been able to keep some of its soul and some of its noise. And I mentioned John Wren before, a colourful character, but this area's had a lot of colourful characters. In fact, Chopper Read used to live just around the corner from here and would pop in occasionally before he passed away. Yes, so the Tote for me has a lot of history, a lot of memories. But so do a lot of the other venues around this area, ones that no longer exist and some that are still here. And so we'll go to a few other venues. I think we'll move up to the Nightcat just up the street. I'm in the Nightcat now, further up Johnson Street in Fitzroy. And standing here reminds me of why this area is so rich in the types of venues it's got, because there's so many different sorts of venues. The Nightcat's quite a unique venue because it's, Henry started it, came from a cabaret background, and it's got a bit of that feel to it. The decor's different. And of course, it's got a stage in the middle of the room, which makes it quite unique. It's also got a very esoteric booking policy. So you get acts that go across different genres. So bands that have played here include, the Sun Ra Orchestra, or Lado Starkey, or the Far Side. About a year ago, King Gizzard played here and played here and played here. They did 8 sold-out shows in a row. So it's a very special place, and it's at the moment the Nightcat's very empty, but they're getting bands in, and they're going to be doing live streaming. calling it Islands in the Stream. So please look out for that. All of the venues are really in hard times at the moment, and obviously they're completely empty. All their staff are out of work, and they're all looking for ways to sort of move back into some sort of new reality. We can't lose the sort of vibrant thing that we've got going on, especially in the city of Yarra. Because it took so long to achieve something like this, and it's terrible to think it's going to disappear. And of course, the Nightcap's almost on the corner of Johnson and Brunswick Street. It's got the fabulous mural on the side of the wall. I worked around here a lot. In fact, I had a cassette magazine in the early 80s called Fast Forward, and our offices were above the Black Cat, which is just around the corner, when this area was really run down. In fact, there was this side of Brunswick Street, most of the shops just had sheets over the windows and students were living in them. But then venues started appearing. Let's see. Well, one of the first venues I ever went to regularly was the Muchmore Ballroom up on Brunswick Street, right up near Victoria Parade at Cathedral Hall. But coming down, let's see, it was called the Colonial Hotel, the Perseverance, of course, the Labour in Vain still going with live music. There was Marijuana House, which is now a vegan restaurant that used to have a lot of gigs. MRA, the Motorcycle Riders Association house on the other side of the road, which is now I think it's called the Frock Shop or the Fabric Shop. And then coming down, we've, of course, the Evelyn, still going. The Punters Club, for many people, a very important venue, and certainly for the records I released on A Go-Go in the 90s, the Punters Club was probably ground zero. The Troubadour, the folk club, a little bit further down. This area is just so rich in music history, in Melbourne and Australian music history. So many incredible things have happened within a short distance from where I'm standing. We'll move now a little bit further up Johnson Street to another favourite place of mine, the Old Bar. As I was walking up here, I was just thinking of all the venues that have existed around this spot over the years. Even the HSV7 Telly Theatre, which was down the road, where let's see, Hair was put on, where the Rocky Horror Show was put on. Over the road here, the Spanish Club. It was a great music venue for a long time. Luau, almost next door here. Even the Tankerville Arms, the pub up on the corner, was a great jazz venue in the 80s, where people like Vince Jones had a residency. I can see out the backyard of the Old Bar here and the building there where Triple R used to have its studios, where the Rooftop Cafe, where people like PJ Harvey and Jeff Buckley played, amongst many others. The Universal Theatre that was in there, where I saw John Cale and many acts over many years. I guess I'm trying to say I'm still in a part of Melbourne where there's a lot of music history, and the Old Bar is one of my favourite venues. Partly because it's got a nice size, it's got a nice feel to it. Great people working here. It's also got, whilst it's very small, it's got nice spaces too. The outdoors area, the bar area, which they're working on at the moment. As you can see behind me, they're working on the stage area as well, by the looks of it. And it reminds me when I'm standing here of just how important venues of this size are, because bands don't just appear, artists don't just appear and are suddenly playing big music festivals. It takes a community and work and artists to be able to work on their creative art and their performance and everything like that. And it's venues like this that when I think about the Old Bar, you think of Courtney Barnett and Cash Savage, Marlon Williams and C.W. Stone King and bands like the Pete Temple and or so many others, Camp Cope, that came up through, specifically through a place like this. This was sort of their stomping ground, their learning ground, as Paul Kelly would have said, their university. It's not just local acts that have appeared here. There's been, it's been very popular with overseas bands. They often have to do secret gigs here because of the size of the place. But Charlie Parr and Oakville River, the Pretty Things played here only a few years ago. Guitar Wolf, so many Japanese bands. So yes, I really, when I stand in this room, I feel in my element. I feel in part of a community, a music community, and we've all got to fight to make sure that places like this survive and hopefully thrive. So we'll go from the old bar here, and we'll go to another iconic music venue, one you all know. If you live in Melbourne, say you're a music fan and you've never been to the Corner Hotel, well, you're probably not that much of a music fan. So let's go down to the Corner Hotel, and that's where we'll finish up. Here I am down at the Corner Hotel in the very quiet front bar. It's almost eerie at the moment. And driving from the old bar down here, I was just driving past venues and remembering venues along the way, and places like the Champion Hotel on Gertrude Street, the Workers Club. We came down Victoria Parade, so there was Prince Patrick and the Baden-Powell. Of course, that leads on to Victoria Street, then down Punt Road and across Bridge Road, remembering places like the Kingston Hotel hidden in there, a club called Roots, the Old Greek Theatre, the Tiger Lounge, all those wonderful venues, and swung past the Cricketers Arms on Punt Road, where on Hoddle Street actually at this part, where Men at Work first started, and now I'm on Swan Street at the Corner Hotel. And again, just thinking around here, there was the Richmond Club opposite, the Greyhound down on the corner that had gigs. Further down Swan Street, of course, there was the Central Club, the Rising Sun. There was that whole stretch along Church Street, venues like, let's see, starting on the corner, the Swan, where you could see Lobby Lloyd and the Powder Monkeys, the GB, the Tropicana, and the pub down almost at the river, the Prince Albert, and then the Riverside Inn, which you might remember under the silo, under the Nilex clock sign where Paul Kelly filmed the Leaps and Bounds film clip. There was a venue there. The Cherry Tree Hotel in the middle of Cremorne. An area rich in sort of true crime history as much as music history. Of course, it's where Squizzy Taylor grew up, and in fact, I think his first conviction was when he stole money from the Cherry Tree Hotel's till when he was about 12 years old. Yes, I'll leave some of the true crime aside. Let's talk about the Corner Hotel, which is, I don't know when I first started coming here. It's so long ago. In fact, I think when I first started coming here, the stage is pretty much where it is now. There was just a lot more columns. And then at some stage, the stage moved down to the Swan Street end of the building. And that's my memory of when I had a go-go, and bands like Spiderbait and the Meanies would be doing all ages gigs. The Hard-Ons had come to Melbourne, and Tumbleweed. And I seemed to be down here almost every weekend watching this sea of kids doing all that stuff that's completely illegal now, just a wave of people jumping off the stage and rolling across arms and things like that. And this is where, of course, backstage is where Jack White wrote the White Stripes' biggest hit, Seven Nation Army, at Soundcheck. There's a film clip that U2 made for a song called Window in the Skies. And they hired the Corner Hotel for 2 days, apparently had a huge staff, must have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And have a look at the film clip, because I think the shot of the band or the crowd in the band room goes for about half a second. So the total budget for that film clip must have been absolutely astronomical. It's also the Corner Hotel where Mick Jagger famously did a secret gig that 5,000 people tried to turn up and get into. But the Corner Hotels, it's a big venue. They can make the room smaller, but you've really made it to some sort of next level when you play the Corner Hotel, especially if you sell it out. I remember, it must be almost 20 years ago, I released an album by the Drones, Wait Long by the River, and their manager booked them to do the launch at the Corner Hotel, and I was beside myself, because I was like, it'll be terrible, it'll be embarrassing, because at that stage the Drones were filling the Tote. Anyway, we put the record out, and by the time they did the launch, a couple of weeks after the record came out, the venue was sold out. I remember standing there watching and just going, wow, this is what happens in such a short time with a band sometimes, and it's a wonderful feeling. And as I mentioned, I'm standing here and it's eerily quiet, and we will start moving back towards reopening places like the Corner Hotel, like the Old Bar, and the Night Cat, and the Tote. And these are all very important amongst so many other venues. These are important parts of our community, and our music community, our arts community. We don't sometimes realise what we've lost until it's gone, and at the moment it's gone, and getting it back is going to be not as easy as it seems. So all of these venues will move towards reopening, but some won't survive. It's going to be very hard, and I hope we get back to having that sort of thriving and throbbing music community that we have in this city. It's an incredible thing to have. It goes across ages. It goes across music genres. It ebbs and it flows, but it's got a real energy to it. It's one of the great things about living in this city, and something I really want to get back to. So maybe I'll see you again sometime soon at one of these places, enjoying some live music.
I heard Rebecca Barnard playing boots of Spanish leather. Heard the Fish John West reject down there when they were still together. We were booked to play grand final night. We thought we had it made, till they took that cup and sent it off to Adelaide. At the in, the down, the round, they'll meet you at the corner. By the near, the on, the in, they'll meet you at the corner. Gonna meet you at the corner. Gonna meet you at the corner. I never saved the ticket stub. I don't have any proof of the night the Teenage Fan Club nearly lifted off the roof. But if I had a buck for every show I'd seen or played, I could trade it for that cup that we sent off to Adelaide. At the in, the down, the round, they'll meet you at the corner. By the near, the on, the in, they'll meet you at the corner. Gonna meet you at the corner. Gonna meet you at the corner.